All right, let's jump right in. There's this hidden war going on. It's happening in fields all across the globe, and it could seriously change what you see on your dinner plate. We're talking about plant viruses. So look at this picture. That's not just some sad, sick tomato plant. No, that right there is a symptom of a much, much bigger problem. We've got these new, really aggressive viruses popping up, and they're going after some of our most important crops. Think tomatoes, bananas, cucumbers. We're talking a huge scale here.
So you gotta wonder, right? Where are these things even coming from? And why now? It seems like they just poof appear out of thin air. But is that the real story? Are they brand new? Or is there something else at work? Well, in this explainer, we're gonna play detective and follow the clues to figure out what's really going on.
All right, first up, let's introduce our lineup of villains. And I want to be clear, these aren't just your garden variety pests. We're dealing with some very specific, incredibly effective viruses that are behind some massive recent epidemics all around the world. For instance, you've got the tomato leaf curl New Delhi virus. Yeah, it's a mouthful, so let's call it TOLCNDV. This one has just been wrecking crops like zucchini and melon all over the Mediterranean. And then there's this other one, the tomato brown rugose fruit virus, or TOBRFV. This is a newer global threat, and it's spreading like wildfire, causing just devastating losses for anyone trying to grow tomatoes.
Okay, so these viral threats basically come in two flavors. You've got your emerging viruses. These are kind of like the new kids on the block, showing up and spreading to new places really, really fast. But then you have the re-emerging ones. And these are the old bad guys, the ones we thought we'd beaten, that are suddenly making a comeback. And they're coming back with a vengeance. So you see, we're essentially fighting a war on two different fronts here.
So the big question is, why now? Why is all of this happening with such intensity? Well, our first big clue isn't actually about the virus itself. It's about us. It's about the world around us. Turns out we've accidentally created the perfect storm for these viruses to thrive.
And this diagram just lays it out perfectly. Think about it. Our modern world has basically built superhighways for plant viruses. You've got a warming planet, which means insects like whiteflies that carry these viruses can now live in places they never could before. On top of that, our global trade system can zip an infected plant, or even just one tiny insect, from one side of the world to the other in just a few days. It's wild.
So, let's just break that down a bit. First, climate change is letting virus-carrying bugs move into new neighborhoods. Second, global trade is like a taxi service, shipping infected plants everywhere. And third, as we build bigger and bigger farms, we're pushing our crops right up against wild areas, exposing them to viruses they have zero natural defense against. You put it all together, and it's a recipe for disaster.
Okay, so that explains how these viruses are getting around. But now we get to our second clue. And honestly, this one is a real shocker. What if I told you that a lot of these so-called new viruses weren't new at all? What if they were here the whole time, just hiding in plain sight?
Believe it or not, scientists have found something like 2,500 different plant viruses out there. That is a staggering number. It's this huge, invisible ecosystem of viruses living in the plants all around us. But this is where the story gets really interesting.
Because check this out. Of those thousands of viruses, only a tiny fraction of them, we're talking maybe 100 or 200, are the ones that actually cause these massive, devastating diseases in our crops. The vast majority of them just hang out. They live inside plants without doing any real damage you can see.
And this leads us to a really important idea called the latent lytic balance model. So look at the image on the left. You've got a healthy plant, everything's cool, stable environment. The virus is there inside, but it's basically sleeping. It's latent. The plant's immune system has it locked down. But then look at the right. The plant gets stressed out. Maybe it's a heat wave, a drought, whatever. All of a sudden, that balance is shattered. The virus wakes up, starts copying itself like crazy, and bam, that's when you see the disease.
So let's recap our clues. Clue number 1, a changing world is giving viruses new opportunities. Clue number 2, a lot of these viruses are actually dormant and are being woken up by stress. Now for our third and final clue. And this one is all about the virus itself, because this enemy is not standing still. It is a master of evolution.
And to really get this, we have to zoom in on one specific part of the virus, something called its coat protein. You can think of this thing as the virus's personal Swiss Army knife. It's the armor that protects its precious genetic code, it's the key that unlocks the plant's cells, and it's even the grappling hook it uses to hitch a ride on an insect.
So how does the virus upgrade this all-important tool? A lot of the time, it's through these tiny little changes called point mutations.
Here's a simple way to think about it. Imagine the virus's genetic code is a long sentence. A point mutation is like changing just one single letter in that sentence. It sounds like no big deal, right? But changing one letter can totally change a word's meaning, and for the virus, it can completely change what its protein can do.
And this chart really drives home how powerful a single tiny change can be. Take TOLCNDV. A point mutation makes it way better at spreading by whiteflies. For TOBRFE, a couple of point mutations are all it needs to break through the defenses that scientists spent years breeding into our tomatoes. For something like the banana streak virus, these changes can make it so stress itself is the trigger that activates it. You see, the virus is just constantly rolling the genetic dice, and every now and then, it hits the jackpot.
Okay, time to connect the dots. We've got environmental stress waking up dormant viruses. We've got random mutations giving those viruses powerful new weapons. So, what happens when the plant's defenses just can't keep up anymore?
This is where we have to talk about something called virulence. It's a fancy word, but it just means how much damage a pathogen can cause. But here's the really crucial part. Virulence isn't set in stone. It's not a fixed number. It's the result of that ongoing evolutionary arms race between the virus and the plant.
And this is what it looks like when the virus wins that arms race. What you're seeing in this microscopic image is a plant cell that is just jam-packed with virus particles. The virus has replicated so much that it's completely hijacked the cell's machinery. This causes the cell to die. That's called necrosis. And that cell death is what creates the disease symptoms we actually see on the outside of the plant.
So let's put the whole mystery together. Here's the sequence of events. Step 1, our changing planet puts plants under stress. Step 2, that stress acts like an alarm clock, waking up those dormant, latent viruses. Step 3, once awake, the virus starts mutating like crazy, especially that all-important coat protein. Step 4, every once in a while, a mutation is a total game changer, letting the virus smash through the plant's defenses and become way more harmful. And step 5, that's it. That's the birth of a new or re-emerging epidemic.
And the source material for this explainer puts it perfectly. It's all connected. The big picture changes happening on a planetary scale are fundamentally rewriting the rulebook for how plants and viruses interact with each other. Which brings us to one last really big question. We've kind of solved the mystery, right? We see how this perfect storm of environmental stress, sleeping viruses, and rapid evolution leads to disaster. So the real question isn't how anymore, it's what now? What are we going to do about it? In this new, fast-changing world, are we truly prepared to protect the food supply that every single one of us depends on?